In an earlier episode, we featured a list of the best solo-developed games, and you, the Ask Game Dev community, let us know that we've missed some of your favorites. So, we've returned today with an additional showcase featuring the top community favorites. You commented, and we listened. We are Ask Game Dev, aka the guys who forgot about Stardew Valley, and these are 10 more inspiring solo-developed indie games. Welcome back. We make videos on how to elevate your games and inspire others. First up is a series of games that have delivered inspiration to bullet hell developers around the globe. Touhou Project. Touhou Project is a bullet hell series designed by Junya Oda, best known by the pseudonym Zune. The idea of the Touhou Project originated while Zune was in high school and thought it would be nice to make Shrine Maiden games. This thought, however, was set aside as Zune went to college with the hopes of composing music for fighting games. Thankfully, Zune's original plans didn't pan out, and it pushed him to create the first title in the Touhou Project series. Released in 1996 on the Japanese PC-98 series of computers, highly responsive to prayers introduced the Touhou Project series' main protagonist, Reimu Hakure, a shrine maiden who manages and protects a magical border protecting the human world against the fighting antagonistic yokai. Zune added the bullet hell style gameplay into his second and future titles due to his love of shooter games along with the revival in the popularity of the genre thanks to the release of Rayforce. While Zune's following 3 game titles in the Touhou Project remained on the PC-98 series, it was the 6th official title that reached Windows and surpassed the quality of the previous 5 games. The embodiment of Scarlet Devil was the first title to gather a substantial Western fanbase, and even Zune himself remarked that the general theme and direction of Touhou really started coming together in the 6th title. The most recent title, Violent Detector, released in 2018, is the 16th and a half official game in the Touhou Project series. With title continuations throughout the series, Zune has released a grand total of 27 titles over 21 years. Alongside game development and title releases, the Touhou Project was inducted into the Guinness World Records in October 2010 for being the most prolific fan-made shooter series, and has seen expansion into other media, including music albums, manga series, magazines, and books. Second on our list is Braid, a puzzle platformer developed by Jonathan Blow. The idea for Braid came to Jonathan during his 2004 trip to Thailand, and development began shortly after in April of 2005. In just 9 months, a completed version of the game was developed. The 2005 version of Braid immediately impressed and won the Independent Games Festival Game Design Award at the 2006 Game Developers Conference. In efforts to get the artwork where Blow felt it needed to be, he hired artist David Hellman. Blow and Hellman worked closely together to ensure Blow's artistic vision came to light. The final version of Braid was released in August 2008 for the Xbox 360. 2009 saw Braid released for Windows, OS X, and PS3, while the Linux version was later released in December 2010. Braid has been viewed as a keystone title in the growth of indie game development, with its production documented in the 2012 film Indie Game: The Movie. By 2015, Braid managed to earn a total revenue nearing $6 million, which Blow used to fund his next game, The Witness. Number 3 on our list is Spelunky Classic, an open-source roguelite platformer created by Derek Yu. Released as freeware for Windows on December 21, 2008, it was later remade for the Xbox 360 in 2012, followed by ports to the PS3, PS Vita, and then back to Windows. Players control a spelunker who explores a series of caves while collecting treasure, saving damsels in distress, fighting enemies, and dodging traps. The levels are procedurally generated, making each run through the game unique. In 2015, Rock Paper Shotgun ranked the original Spelunky Classic first on its 50 best free games on PC list. Derek Yu has been busy since, with his next projects UFO 50 and Spelunky 2 launching next year. Number 4 is Retro City Rampage, a top-down, open-world action-adventure title developed by V-Blank Entertainment. This title is filled with parody references to retro games, along with 80s and 90s pop culture. The concept for Retro City Rampage originally came from a homebrew project that had begun in 2002. But after over 5 years of development on an NES development kit, creator Brian Provinciano decided to shift gears and create work full-time on Retro City Rampage. The majority of the project saw Provinciano working completely independently on the design, coding, and art. Down the road, Provinciano hired a pixel artist to assist with the visual design of the game to better his own art. He also brought in 3 renowned video game composers to create chiptune songs for the game's soundtrack, which was later released on Bandcamp. Retro City Rampage's final version was released on October 9, 2012 for PlayStation 3, with various ports being made all the way up to 2017 when it was released for the Nintendo Switch. Stay tuned for VBlank's next game, Shakedown Hawaii, launching early next year. At number 5, we have Banished. While this title is listed as a city-building strategy game, it feels a lot more like a city-building survival game, as players work to keep their civilization alive through harsh elements of weather, resource collection, and the very real possibility of starvation. Developed by Shining Rock Software's sole proprietor Luke Hodorovich, Banished began development in August 2011, with inspiration for the game coming from the video game series Anno, which also inspired Hodorovich to remove any form of combat. Banished was released for Windows in February 2014. The title had a slow start as the initial feedback of the game had mixed reviews. Popularity picked up with the release of mod support in November 2014, and Banished has since spawned a multitude of fan-based tutorials and gameplay videos. Number 6 is Five Nights at Freddy's, the first installment in a series of point-and-click, or if you're on Android or iOS, look and poke, survivor horror titles developed and published by Scott Cawthon. The idea for Five Nights at Freddy's stemmed from an unexpected reception towards Cawthon's previous game, Chipper & Sons Lumber Co. Players commented that the main character, a young beaver, looked like a scary animatronic animal. Jim Sterling called the intended family-friendly title unintentionally terrifying. Cawthon was surprised by the reviews from his first title, and he used those reviews as inspiration to make an intentionally scarier game. The first Five Nights at Freddy's game was released via Desura on August 8, 2014, only to then be released via Steam. From there, the franchise exploded, with multiple sequels, spin-offs, and a slew of merchandise. It even added a horror attraction at Adventure Dome in Las Vegas. The most recent title in the series, Ultimate Custom Night, was released in June 2018. Number 7 is Pony Island, a title developed and published by Canadian indie developer Daniel Mullins and released in January 2016 on Windows, OS X, and Linux. Before working on Pony Island, Mullins had just graduated from college and attempted to launch a title called Catch Monsters through Kickstarter in November of 2014. Unfortunately, he didn't raise sufficient funds, so decided to scrap the project. Despite this setback in his game development dream, Mullins didn't give up and in December 2014 joined in the 48-hour Ludum Dare Game Jam. The theme was entire game on one screen, and so the idea for Pony Island was born. The title placed high in both the Ludum Dare's mood and humor categories and was then featured in Zoe Quinn's top 10 games of 2014. Inspired by the positive reviews, Mullins worked on Pony Island in his spare time, released it through Steam Greenlight, and subsequently published the game in January 2016. Kotaku called Pony Island one seriously twisted game, while Rock Paper Shotgun called it the smartest game of 2016. Daniel's next title, The Hex, was released this year. At number 8, it is none other than Stardew Valley, a title which originated as a single-player farming and community simulation game. It has often been described as Harvest Moon on steroids, with good reason, as inspiration for Stardew Valley came from the solo developer Eric Baroni's desire to recreate an optimal alternative to Harvest Moon. Baroni viewed the development of Stardew Valley as an invaluable opportunity to improve his own programming and game design skills. Through interactions with the growing community of Stardew fans via Steam's Greenlight, Reddit, and Twitter, Baroni was able to complete the game within 4 years. As a solo indie game developer, Baroni is an inspiration to fellow indie developers around the world. By working closely with the community, Baroni was able to not only expand his original ideas, but gained the attention of publisher Chucklefish. Mid-development, he was approached by Chucklefish with an offer to publish his finished product. The timing of this offer was perfect, as it allowed Baroni to focus full-time on Stardew development. With the original release date of February 14, 2016, Stardew Valley had sold over 3.5 million copies by the end of 2017, and in 2018 implemented the much-desired multiplayer mode. At number 9, we have Ghost of a Tale, an action RPG primarily developed by DreamWorks and Universal Pictures veteran Lionel Goulet. Players control a small mouse named Tilo as he traverses a dark medieval fantasy world to uncover the mysteries of the past. Inspiration for the character choice and game came from the films The Secret of NIMH, The Dark Crystal, and Disney's Robin Hood, while the puzzle aspects were inspired by the Legend of Zelda series, Dark Souls, and Ico. As an experienced animator, Goulet wanted to dive into game development and create a title that captured the sense of wonder he felt as a kid when discovering titles from the 80s and early 90s, but with the addition of AAA quality. You may be surprised to learn that Ghost of a Tale is Goulet's first game, and that despite his talents as a lead animator, his game development journey had a bumpy start. Goulet originally started with CryEngine, but like many new indie developers, found CryEngine's system to be the wrong fit. He nearly gave up his game development dream until he was introduced to Unity. While Goulet received help from his friends Paul Gardner and Cyril Polyak to streamline production, the fundamental aspects of texturing, level layout, modeling, animation, and programming were all done by Goulet. After a successful Indiegogo, which ran April to May 2013, Goulet was able to raise €48,700. 5 years of development and some time in early access, we now have Ghost of a Tale released for Windows in March of 2018, with Xbox One and PS4 versions arriving soon. Before we unveil the last game of our Solo Games We Forgot list, we're going to showcase the Ask Game Dev Community Member Game of the Week, Alchemy Story, brought to us by community member, artist, and programmer Eloise LaRoche. Players control Arabella, an apprentice alchemist working for a professor. The cute artwork and friendly animals have already brought in a community of fans and patrons. With intent to focus on the title's development for a full year before official release, Eloise is actively interacting with fans during each phase of the development process. Patreon supporters of $5 or more are able to play each game edition as a demo version, vote on future work, and provide invaluable opinions that will steer Alchemy Story's future development. The final title on our community pick list is Equilinox, a sandbox nature simulator where players create their very own ecosystem and ensure balance while genetically manipulating plants and animals to unlock new species. Development for Equilinox began in October 2015, with Carl, aka Thin Matrix, documenting the entire development process via YouTube videos. We recently completed a video on the best game dev channels of YouTube, and Thin Matrix made the list. Click the card above to check that video out. During development, Thin Matrix was able to gather a large community of followers, fans, and patrons alike. With over 150 devlog videos documenting the development process of his titles, Thin Matrix has shown fans demonstrated dedication and commitment to his game and the game development community. Equilinox was released on Steam on November 23, 2018, and is currently rated overwhelmingly positive, with over 700 reviews. Want more Ask Game Dev? Check out the first video in this series on inspiring solo developers, or this playlist showcasing other great indie games.